All right. My name is Paige Kelly, and this is Finally on the Same Page podcast.
Oh, we're finally on the same page.
Absolutely.
It took like 2 to 3 weeks to get here.
Yeah.
Started off right though.
And like 10 years to come up with a name.
It's almost like it was all in the name to begin with.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was like, I keep hearing this phrase. I'm like, that's a pretty good name.
Yeah.
And now we can, be on the podcast.
I like it.
Yeah. So my name is Paige Kelly, and this is our guest.
Hi there. My name is Ben. Friends and family call me Benergy. It's a nickname that I earned because I'm a big energy, high octane, all the time up at like the highest possible levels of just being excited to be a part of life.
I love that. Is that your natural state?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I wake up in the morning and within the first hour, it's like I take off like the sun, and I usually don't crash until the sun has been down for like an hour or two. So these days in the winter, the sun's down by like what, 7? I'm usually done by 9:30. Over the summer months though, yeah, my body kicks me awake at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, all day with the sun, and then until like 11 o'clock at night. And I can get very little sleep over the summer and still be at that level.
Amazing. Yeah. If you need volunteer manpower,
Yeah, it's what I like to do.
Benergy's the one. All right.
I like to do.
Yeah, I'll take a minute to drop us in, and then we'll go from there.
All right.
So, all right, find a comfortable seat. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Go ahead and move your back against the chair, your feet on the ground. Just take a moment to bring yourself fully into this present moment. And go ahead and call all of your energy back in from different decades, from different years, from different moments, from today. Just ask every part of you to come here right now. All parts are welcome. And go ahead and take a moment to just observe if there's any open tabs right now. Anything pending, any to-do lists. Go ahead and breathe into that, however feels aligned. And just acknowledge those things to do. And if you're open to it, go ahead and put them on a shelf. They'll be there when we're done if we want them. Maybe we realize we didn't even need them. And now just take a moment to move your body, however feels authentic to you, to shake off whatever you need and to ground in this moment. Just put my neck back into place.
I'm a natural adjuster, so everything pop, cracks, or snaps in some way or another. And I wake up in the morning and I've been called a Rice Krispies treat. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, so we can discuss the mantras podcast, or I have some curiosity that would be more of like an authentic impromptu conversation. And I'm totally open to either.
My response is in sincerity. My only desire here was to support you. Like there was nothing else that went into my thought process, whether it's under one banner, under another. The Dharma is always going to be the same. The energy will always flow. And so I'm happy to just be here to support you in this process and what you're creating. And as long as we're on the topic and I have you eye to eye and face to face, I admire the living life out of you these days. I said this in our group chats just the other day.
Yeah.
Paige has been the kind of woman that since day zero, I've watched her show up with authenticity, with vigor, with curiosity, with desires, with interests. Like, how can I help? How can I support? What can I do? I've noticed that from day zero. So to echo that energy back to you would just be a mirror for that in this moment. That feels like an honor and a privilege on my end.
Thank you.
So where's this authentic place you'd like us to flow today? What came up?
Well, first of all, I'd like to receive that. Thank you very much. And I deeply appreciate, I notice that like every time I put out an appreciation or a thank you to the group, like it's genuine and authentic. I don't expect anything in return. And I just feel really blessed when you pop in there like, and you, like would also just like to
No, you.
Yeah. So thank you for reflecting that back to me and being that mirror. And I feel really grateful too, to be in a place where I'm able to see that and hear that. Because I know that there was a point even within mantras where like what I was doing was reflected back to me. And I was so dedicated and stuck in my old story of not mattering that like I couldn't hear it or receive it. So it's really beautiful, not only that well, first and foremost, that you take the time to say it and reflect that, and also it's really beautiful to like be able to receive it and hear it. So thank you very much.
I can also say I have watched you melt into that process a little more, being able to receive back the reflections from others. Because yeah, the first couple of times I met you, there was some, I don't want to say the word prickliness, but it was almost like a porcupine that had its quills up just a little bit, like come a little closer, I dare you to. Bean get stuck kind of thing. But
Yeah.
over time,
It's kind of like my heart like ices out.
mhm.
That's what they, yeah, like you can say that and think that and I love that and I'm not gonna accept it in because it feels conditional or because the past was conditional. So yeah, so it feels nice to be like, wow, thank you.
Yeah, good to see
Appreciate that.
you.
Yeah,
You're doing great work.
thank you. Yeah. Okay, so the authentic conversation.
Ooh,
I'm curious around, I think you're an incredible leader and you take like initiative to lead things.
all the time.
Yeah, and I feel like you're similar to me in the sense where you're like, there's a need and how can I take action?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've also noticed that like through that sometimes I don't ever experience it in person. I only experience it like in the chats online. And I want to pause and backtrack. If at any point this is a conversation you don't want to go down.
Oh no, I believe in vulnerability, openness, transparency. That is a part of my leadership. A big reason for that motivation is coming from a family where conversations were had behind closed doors, where people weren't involved in the discussion. So for me, a part of the healing process, I said this to a man recently. It's like, I think we as men need to be open and honest and vulnerable in front of our kinsmen, especially the women, so that way we can show that no, we can have disagreements, we can have these clashes and confrontations, and still there can be connection somewhere in that. So I'm completely open to wherever this goes. Full consent given, let's send it.
Beautiful. Okay. Yeah. So I don't have the experience of you in person like this, but I do in the chat sometimes of being kind of like an instigator or ruffling the feathers with the intent of creating more clarity.
Correct.
So I'm curious, like I have my own stories and curiosities around it, but I'm curious of just with that information, like what you would say your intent is in those moments, and also what is upstream to that for you.
When we say upstream, does that mean where that's flowing from? Is that what you mean? Or like kind of the intentions behind it down the, I'm just making sure to get that. The first question I got.
Yeah. Let's go with the first question and then I'll clarify the second one.
Okay, so the first question was what is behind that for me and like what's kind of what like why, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me a big part of that is challenging mediocrity, challenging the status quo, challenging the oh, this is good enough when I know that there are higher and higher heights that can always be reached. And I want to be clear, that's not a projection I'm throwing onto the world. That's a standard I hold myself to. I believe it's called Ikigai. I could be wrong, but it's basically the Japanese concept of one, no, it's Kaizen. Japanese concept of 1% improvement every day. And so I have been applying that force, that power, that energy back onto myself for the past 20 years of my life. It's given me some great lessons, some beautiful wisdom, and some energy and leadership prowess that at 40, I don't think a lot of men really have been able to garnish or harness. So for me, it's kind of looking at things that are happening and saying, no, there's more to this. We can do a little better. We can offer a little bit more. And especially around these topics about vulnerability, about openness, honesty, but also from a masculine perspective of structure, agreements, like what we're building and what we're creating. I tend to think it's very important for us as men to be very direct with our wording and to be very open in that process about what's going on for us. So in the empowerment triangle, I am the challenger. I'm not the coach.
Yeah, I hear that. And it makes sense to me now after hearing that why I don't have that experience of you in person, because in person I hear you say, you ask for permission. You ask like, can I give you a reflection? Can I give you some insight? Can I challenge you? And I can see how in the chat that doesn't occur. And so I have a couple, as a female would, I have a couple questions and
let it flow.
I'll ask them one at a time. But one of my questions would be, is there a world in which you can see how when it's in the chat, you potentially can't read other people to see if everyone's consenting to have that experience.
Yes, I would also say back that those people aren't reading into my energy, my intention, or my heart either. They're receiving a face value of the Dharma as opposed to the embodied love that's stuck behind it.
Okay.
With
Yeah.
that said, though, yeah, this has been a place that I've been lovingly invited to consider again. I've definitely, I've been in mantras for on and off for 2 years, but definitely committed since we shifted over to a more membership-based model back in June of 25. Yeah, June of
Yeah.
25. So that's something that has come up quite a bit. And it happened a lot back when I first started because I didn't see structure, I didn't see laws, I didn't see enforcement, I didn't see rules. I just saw like a lawless land. And that's not a place that works well for me because I don't feel safe in the ambiguity
Yeah.
or the uncertainty.
So kind of in a, you're aware of it, maybe other people aren't aware. What I hear is that you're trying to create the structure that you want and need.
I wouldn't say I want to need. I'd say it's the structure that flows healthy community, healthy sangha. Like in a lawless world, terrible things can happen.
Yeah.
In at least a more structured society where we have some form of rules, regulation, laws, it holds all of us to higher levels of accountability. And there's shared agreements about what is okay versus what's not.
Yeah.
Though I can agree to your point of the tone deaf nature of that, especially over the chats, is typically what gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
Hence why I would admit this amongst friends and close partners, voice notes. Like when I can speak my voice to someone, it is received a lot better. And especially once the tone, the intonation, all of that is received, like that's a lot better. Though in the chats, I kind of lose that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a very admirable thing. So two other things that are coming up is one is, yeah, text and email is the most inefficient way of conversing.
Yeah.
Voice notes second to that. So my curiosity would be, would you be open to having those conversations and challenges and desire for people to up level in person? Because I think that's where the real up leveling happens.
I would be, except based on my experience and examination and just observation, Mantras doesn't have a space for that.
Okay.
We as a
Mm.
community don't really have a sacred circle that we meet up to discuss maybe group dynamics, problems that are occurring, like whispers in the background kind of thing.
Yeah.
Essentially, we come into our deep dives on Tuesday. We're reviewing a book. We have something going on. I love the education. I love the wisdom. There's no space to discuss charges. There's no space to discuss that. And then in the 30 to 90 minutes after deep dives, everyone wants to socialize.
Yeah.
No one wants to get into the work with me as it's like 9:30 at night and I'm holding energetic space on something that might have occurred in another leader. And then I'm the one that has to find the way to navigate to get to that person, which I'm discovering is actually the completely wrong way to do it.
Would you be open to co-hosting a group, like in-person group with me of being like, I think it's called critical confrontations, but it's like, or crucial confrontations where it's, we actually dive into that because you're 100% correct. We don't have a space for that.
You don't.
And I think that's a very valuable space. And I see your desire to create that and up level in that. And I think it's both sides can agree, or that we're all on the same side of the table, but the parties can agree that like the ultimate goal and messaging and desire like isn't brought into completion in the chats.
Correct.
But I think that's a beautiful point of like what the need is and what the desire is. And yeah, and have a space for that, right? Where we come in with capacity and it's not like at the end of the night when we're out of capacity.
Correct.
Beautiful.
And especially intentionality, if it's aware that the intention is to have like a group discussion, to address some issues, talk about some problems, then the people that want to show up to that will show up to that.
Yeah.
So the answer is absolutely yes. That's something that I've been trying to find a middle way with our group for the past couple of months.
Yeah.
My desires are like events and organizations alongside of a committee of people to decide activities that we can do as a group, stuff that we can do as a group. And unfortunately, that has not been a position that's really been carved out for me or given to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm kind of sitting back and I'm like, well, I'd like to do more, just like any good church. Like we need more social programs and we need more opportunities to connect. It's just not been either appointed or given. And I will own as a veteran that I was taught in the military in terms of leadership, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. That doesn't really translate in the civilian side where I'm just going to do it. And like, who said you could? And no one's allowed to do that. In the military, and especially veterans, like if you give a guy charge, other people are going to follow that person and they won't question it.
Yeah.
We don't have that here as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know your exact experience, but I can relate because my ex was a sniper and it was very difficult to watch him come back into a civilian world where like people didn't speak his language, people didn't
Nope.
work that way. And it was like
No.
he was so incredible in that way. And in a country that spoke a different language and like he, it was like it was frustrating and it was difficult to watch that experience happen. So yeah, beautiful. Would you be open to for a month co-creating that container with me and we take it from the chat into that container
Yeah.
and just see what comes of it?
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
In my sort of my men's work, we call it charge clearings. But it's the same thing. It's approaching difficult conversations and being able to voice up truth and opinions that are creating charges that disconnect us from each other.
Yeah.
So we clear what's disconnecting us to bring about connection. And I've been in a few of those that have gone very well. I've also been in a couple that haven't gone so well. The point is at least communicating about it is important. That's the theme that I would say is part of the what's upstream for me. You'd mentioned that as a previous question. I'm a firm advocate that when we stop communicating and connecting as human beings, that's when problems happen. When husbands and wives stop talking in relationships, problems happen. When neighbors stop talking to each other, problems happen. When communities stop talking to each other, problems happen. And even in our current world with political divides and ideologies, we're not talking to each other. We're yelling at one another. We're not actually communicating. And so I'm a big advocate for, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I love that. And I also feel like as leaders, that's our invitation to take it in person because we all know it's not effective in online,
I'm
It's
zoomed
not.
out these days, girl. I'm zoomed out.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I say we commit to creating that, or I will commit to creating that container and being the change that takes those things from text message like in person because that's where the gold is.
I
Yeah.
agree.
And that would be my example of like what's upstream for you, like what's the deeper desire. And like I hear that right there of like my deeper desire is to have a container in person in which we can do exactly that. And we show up knowing and we show up with the capacity.
Yeah.
And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. My second question, do you feel complete there?
Sure.
Okay, sure.
Well, I mean, there's always threads. My brain brains in such a unique way. The best way I can describe it is my brain is quite literally like the tree of life. There's a trunk that is the firm basis, but there are many branches that go out into like I'd call the ethers or the spirit or things where like different threads connect on this tree alongside of others. And then the roots go very, very, very deep because of some of my talents, my spiritual gifts and abilities. So it's like I could always expand further on everything because threads weave together on different thought topics.
Okay, so then I'll pick a branch.
Yes, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like we gotta go back to a branch, otherwise we wander in the wind for a few hours.
Beautiful, I received that. My next question would be, I heard you say that you have a desire to, and I forget the exact name you put to it or the percentage, but you have a desire to constantly up level. I believe it was 1%.
1% improvement every day.
Yeah. And so I experience you as wanting to create that in the chat. And my question for you is there a void of that in your own life? And how can we help challenge you to achieve that goal?
No, there isn't a void.
Okay.
I'm very sincere when I say I challenge because I challenge myself.
Yeah.
I push myself. I really have a driving force. I called it ceaseless determination in one of our chats recently. I've been referred to as an energy that is unyielding, that is unbreakable, that will keep moving forward. I know I'm resilient. I know I'm tenacious. These are just factors I've cultivated over my life. So it's not really something that I need an external challenge from someone else on, and I'm completely open to that. Of which, as we're on the branch, if you will, I did have conversations with Ryan Tomita. He's our leader in mantras, if you will, kind of the man that started this whole process and is now kind of helping to move us forward. He invited in what I'm aware of is my next evolution, which is just not saying anything, which is actually really difficult for me.
Yeah.
But as I tuned into this, I realized no one actually consented to that. like direct challenge arc that I was bringing out at various times over
Yeah.
these past few weeks, which feels kind of, feels kind of frustrating, but also kind of sad. And I feel a little bit of grief acknowledging, all right, well, that wasn't the best. And even in speaking with my spiritual guru recently, a man that I've been devoted to and worked with for over 13 years in my Tibetan Buddhist tradition, he was very clear that part of the learning process for me is to go out and make mistakes and to refine. So I don't feel regret over making mistakes. If anything, I feel shame that I'm acknowledging what I was doing was not the best way to go about inviting that challenge or inviting us to look at something different that could foster change.
I love that. And I just want to point out, shame is I am bad and guilt is I did something bad.
I disagree.
Okay.
Shame
Okay. As long as you
is
don't think you are bad.
no,
Okay.
no. For me, shame, as indicated by Alison Armstrong, writer of The Queen's Code, which is the book we read, shame is felt by men of honor. Those of us that have honor feel shame when we don't live up to the best value or best potential or best sense of what things are. So I don't typically feel like regret or sorrow. I feel shame.
Okay.
And the shame comes from acknowledging that either my leadership or my style or my choices or whatever cause suffering to another human being. That's when I feel shame. Because I'm like, oh, that's not what I want to be doing.
Okay. And is it shame that then inspires you to change?
Yes.
Okay. Beautiful.
I am always processing.
Beautiful.
Like I reach out to friends, I sit in meditation, I tune into my faith and my spirituality. I'm always asking the question, especially when I can have it pointed out to me, because I have my blind spots too.
Yeah.
When it's pointed out to me, like, oh, I don't like that.
Yeah.
It's like a process where I feel into it and I feel it in my body, and then I'm like, ew, get it out. No, that's not aligned with who I want to become.
I love that. Yeah. And I love the point that you reflected back about like people not consenting to that. And that was similar to what I was saying of like in person, I have a different experience because you ask for consent. But online is a totally different ballgame, right? And so it's not like asking for consent for the 90 people that are in the group chat, and so it's that tells me that you absolutely have the awareness and to do that, and that it's just the disconnect that texting and has created, to a degree.
To a degree, I would agree. I'd also say, though, that anything that I'd say in the chats is something I would say to someone's face, is something I would say in front of thousands of people. Part of my vision puts me on center stages, the likes of Tony Robbins and David Bayer, to be an advocate for truth and for sharing some of the wisdom that I've gained thus far. So I'd like to say keep it 100 all the time. So what I'll say to someone over a chat is the same thing I'd say to their face. What I speak behind someone's back is also what I speak to their front. I don't like the games or the shadows involved with, well, I'll say this to this person, but I'll say something different to someone else. That I don't like how that feels.
Yeah. Great awareness. Yeah. Beautiful. And then I heard your answer and I want to loop back just so I'm clear of, do you feel like you're in a container of people that are challenging you and pushing you in the way that you're satisfying that extra 1% of improvement? Or are we lacking in that somehow for you? Because I always want to improve 1% as well.
I have to be honest, it feels like a no. There's very few men that I experience that challenge me on a physical level. And by the way, I'm gonna make this clear. This is not me trying to be a braggart or boast. It's just an authentic feeling that I have. I don't experience a lot of men challenging themselves to their edges. I struggle a lot with the lack of organization and the lack of structure, not just in the chats, but within the community. The only challenge I could say I do receive that is authentic is the feedback. I do have blind spots. So occasionally being invited to look at that is good. Though when it comes to like the energy of steel sharpening steel, I don't feel that I really get that from the men. As it pertains to women, we don't do it that way. How I treat feminine energy and how I treat masculine energy is totally different. This comes from my tradition in Tantra, where based on my experience and examination, masculine energy thrives on challenge and discipline, and feminine energy thrives on support and praise. Those two things, like I treat men and women differently, but I also treat masculine and feminine dynamics differently. But in terms of challenging that masculine energy, not so much. And with feminine energy doesn't need to be challenged, it needs to be supported. So I would say I feel supported at times with my style, with my harshness, or with my fires and my passions. But in terms of a challenge, no.
Yeah. And I can see how there's a desire to create that up leveling of other people in that 1% because it's almost an ask of like, I want you to do this for me, or I want you to up level so that you can challenge me at my level.
Sort of. It's more that I see the shadows, the misprints, the issue. I just see them. That's a part of the gift. And I'm wanting to invite someone to look at it because if I was to state my authentic desire in mantras, my desire for the microcosm of mantras that is the macrocosm of humanity, I desire every person that walks through these hallways to find their truest, highest self and to become that version of themselves as best as they possibly can, to remove any of the past beliefs, the self-limiting issues, the projections from parents, like anything that comes from society or culture. My authentic desire is that people live as they were designed to be by an infinite creator that's more powerful than all of us.
Yeah.
And it's not for me. I feel that I have that already. And so this joy that I've been feeling in my heart, especially as I want others to have, because I see people, and I won't name names, will be confidential. I see people with their head hung. I see people suffering from the same issues. I see people still, de-prescribing themselves from what their parents prescribed to them in terms of their beliefs or their thoughts. And just living in the shadows of the whispers of the past to me is not the best way to live this life. And so it's really not for me. I just feel joy when I see someone else living in that place of authenticity, the same way that I mentioned that to you, both over the chats and before we started here, because I feel so much joy watching you become this next version of yourself. And the beauty is, I don't have to challenge you about it. I just support you in that process. But again, that's a little different than men. Masculine energy is a little bit different than feminine energy. And I think we have to have that discussion before we start to go into that place because I don't want to challenge everyone.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to live the best life possible for themselves. And I see
Yeah.
with my gifts what's getting in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Do you think you would have the language to say, like, if it ever came up, like, to go to the men and be like, look, like, I'm itching for this extra 1%, and I need you guys to, like, iron sharpen iron. I need you to meet me as iron, right? Because one thing that I'm learning is, like, I thought that I did all the self-improvement alone, and I realized, like, that actually happens in groups. And so to me, like, a part of it is being like, hey, like, in this moment, like, I need pressure, I need intensity, I can't get myself to that 1%. And I want to pull together a container that I can trust to push up against, and they'll push back and help me up level.
I don't honestly don't think so. And
No,
that's part of what my struggle is as it pertains to at least the men in the group.
yeah,
I'm not naming any particular names. I just don't experience a level of rigidity. And not that I need you to be hyper rigid, but a level of maybe firmness would be a
yeah,
better word. Level of firmness, a level of sharpness, a level of discipline. I don't see it.
yeah,
And because there's no real, I want to say stage, if you will, or platform or whatever that I can try and share that message from, it's happening in these smaller little dynamics amongst a few of the leaders where I'm in my way trying to challenge them to see something that they're not seeing because there is no official stage for this, nor has there been any real agreement about that.
yeah,
I don't think the 2.0 version of the male locker room is at that place of acknowledging, like, yeah, steel sharpens steel. I hear men say it.
mhm,
I don't see them being it
yeah,
though. And I don't know how to go about that right now.
yeah. Do you think that the container we're going to create would help with that?
I think it can, especially if it's spoken in advance, like what that is and what it means and what it's all about. Though to bring that up in authenticity and then to have that be part of the message, I think is important.
Yeah,
Because a part of that goal that I've mentioned and desiring to see that in mantras, I want to attract more people to mantras that are going to do that.
yeah,
The way I see it, if we formed a little village, we have a little community, we have a little bit of protection on the outside, rules to get in kind of thing. But when I go out into the world and I travel amongst life itself, people get attracted to me and then they're like, oh, where do I go? And I'm saying, I would love to bring more and more people into our community. We're just not ready for that because again, structure is not very tight,
yeah,
rules aren't being fully enforced, and then that masculine ability for containment is still not fully present.
yeah. Beautiful. So I hear that coming out in challenges in the messages, and then I hear what you're saying is it's more of not more of, but it's also like I have a want and I have a need. So it's like instead of going at it of asking like, okay, and how's that going to be enforced? It's more of like, great, that's beautiful. And I want to understand how we're going to uphold that. Like for me to really lean into this container, like I need the guidelines around it. And part of that probably comes from your military background, of like, this is how it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
definitely
there's a
is.
lot of beauty in that. And there's a lot of work too in realizing like when it needs to be that way and when the edge or like the edge is where the healing happens or like what the work is for us is when it's like, oh, this is my automatic programming and I can see that in this scenario, maybe I don't need it,
Hmm.
right?
I can receive
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Like that's like the perfect example I have that for myself is I was running the Volunteers for Revival, which is like a wellness group around here. We had a pool party and I was in charge of running the volunteers and like I snapped back into the ER. And I was in ER mode and I was running these volunteers in ER mode and like the event and like I had everything. All the guys had like the walkie-talkies off. They were in the pool. I was like, I'm in charge. I got it. We got 500 people, 7 stories, 50 vendors. And then I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you're at a pool party. Like you're not in the ER. Like people are not people. This is not working, right? And so like I was like, I changed my shirt, I changed my attitude, and I was like, I'm leading the volunteers at a pool party. And like I almost missed it because I went back to the ER. And so like the edge for me was realizing I had flipped into that mode, which I love and I thrive and it's my go-to.
It's good to have that side available if ever necessary.
Yeah,
I've cultivated that same energy from
yeah,
not just the military, but my response was in critical care and emergency medicine.
yeah. Thank you for your service.
Thank you
Yeah,
for letting me serve.
yeah. Yeah, and so to me, the work in that moment was to soften and to realize like, all right, volunteer A is just checking people in. Like I don't have a bleeding child in front of me. Like I
Yeah.
can give them some grace. They don't, the where they're standing is perfect. They ran out of lays and there aren't any more. Like beautiful. I'm at a pool party. Right. And so
Yes.
like to me it's about identifying for myself and for others, like what is the work for them? Because it's totally different, you know? And that's why I think it's beautiful to like have these conversations of like, hey, I have this awareness that this is popping up and I'm curious, what's the go-to for you and what is in the work for you?
Mhm.
And how do we see that? How do we bring language to that? So because I think it's beautiful, like the structure and the curiosity and the challenges you provide are beautiful. And I think that in person will be really valuable and beneficial to the group and to you. And obviously I can't say what's useful to you, but and then I also think
I think you have an idea. I think you
thank
get
you.
it.
A little tuned in some days. Yeah, and then to also, yeah, be like, okay, what is the work? Like sometimes the work is letting it be lax and it's a book club or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
That's why, again, I admit it's not that I think I know best. That's really
Yeah.
not what it comes down to. And I know that my words are sometimes received that way. I've had a few loving challenges come back to me about that, where the way I speak so confidently, so boldly, and so charismatically has been challenged by others as this kind of, oh, you're projecting onto others. I'm like, I'm not, though. I'm looking at what I see, I'm feeling it. There's little threads, there's tiny, subtle energies that I'm picking up on all the time. And then it's like, wait, I'm speaking to something, I keep observing a pattern, I'm watching a pattern. Why does this pattern keep happening? And even that most recent experience in the more deep dives chat, between myself and another leader, I've been watching this happen for months. I was waiting for months for it to be addressed, and it wasn't.
Mm.
Was there a more tactful way to approach it? Absolutely. I wasn't the most tactical in my approach. I could have probably pulled someone aside. Though I can also own that this becomes my struggle, not just with the lack of this kind of group of reconciliation or challenging conversations. At this stage, even though I know I am a leader within this community, I don't feel I'm involved at the table. I'm not actually at the table with the decision-making process, with the visionary stuff, with the work. And so I would be able to bring up my things behind closed doors if I was invited behind closed doors, though I'm not.
Yeah.
So my passion about, well, I'll just speak up to it in front of the group. Because again, I believe in openness and vulnerability and transparency. So I will be that, even if it's a bit charging for some people. And I know that's not received the best, but that's part of what I'm dialing in these days.
And what I hear in that is the invitation is then to create the doors that you can do that behind.
Well, that's what the invitation was from, again, from leadership recently. It was like, hey, could you not speak up? Could you go about it a different way? And I'm like, I guess I could, because if I'm being very transparent, part of my mantra has always been treat others how you want to be treated.
Yeah.
I'm really rough on myself, and not because I'm trying to be too rough on myself. That's just how I've learned how to be. That yin energy, the softness, the gentleness, the flow, that's actually really hard for me. Structure, discipline, movement, action, activity, that's really, really good for me.
Beautiful.
So acknowledging that that's something that I'm still working on and dialing in, I think is okay.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I love that. And catching yourself in those moments, or at least for me, of like, I could soften here.
Mhm.
Or like, no, like my rigidity and my go is useful here, you know? Yeah.
Well, it's what I find so paradoxical. Just last night, I hosted a men's group as part of my tantra community, and the structure was completely off. Like, I was very clear in my instructions, hey, just a real quick check-in about something. And I had gentlemen that were sharing for like 10 minutes, but I was hearing the voice of spirit telling me, let it go.
Yeah.
And so I've learned from my mentors, if I'm the chariot rider, there is a time to tighten the reins on the horse and pull it back in, and then there's times to loosen the reins and let it roam free. So I allow that. I allowed it to happen last night. Things came through beautifully. However, I'm not in that position when it comes to like leadership and deep dives or looking at the mantras community as a whole. So the lack of organization in that I'm experiencing doesn't make me feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear very clearly your wants and your needs in that. And I think that's beautiful. I just want to be mindful of our time. So yeah, just to wrap it up,
Oh, we're already at time already?
Yeah.
I feel like we could keep going.
I know we could. I have someone next though.
Oh,
But,
okay.
yeah.
I want to respect that though.
Yeah, no, this is beautiful. But I want to conclude and come to some agreements. So are you open to co-hosting that container with me?
Yes, I'd love to talk about that and see what ways we can bring that through.
Beautiful. Are you open to having those conversations, those challenges in person with the people that are, yeah, and just see how that goes?
Completely.
Beautiful. And are you open with me like sharing this on the podcast that I have,
Yeah.
or with the group?
Full consent given.
Beautiful.
Broadcast it out there.
Beautiful. And do we want to say anything in person tonight about it, or?
Let's let that sit for now. It sounds like we're creating something, so let's kind of create what that is. Let's bring the ingredients together to create that meal before we serve it out to others, because it feels like it might be a little bit too rushed if we tried to have that out tonight. Plus, with all the other things happening in the group right now and some of the awarenesses I have. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very in alignment with your desire to have structure before it's announced. So beautiful. All right. You feel complete?
I do. If we're complete here, again, I can keep going. I'd love to chat about this stuff.
Time-wise, we are complete. But yeah, thank you very much for this authentic conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've had some really beautiful conversations, and it's neat and exciting to record this one, you know, and to get to share with people so they know your medicine and my medicine and like what the community's doing. So beautiful.
It's potent.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. Much love.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
Amazing.